Dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, we're getting a lot of questions at the moment asking where to buy silver or gold, and of course there are many places in which you could, and this is not an endorsement, but we tend to use bullionbypost.com. They've got a wide range of gold and silver, and if you put in the code that we've listed here below, you'll get a 1 ounce silver coin on any order over £250. Very nice. Just in case our channel ever gets taken down from YouTube, which there's a possibility because we are challenging a number of things. If you go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, we'll keep you in touch as to what's going on. And please, as Justin always says, remember to subscribe and like and share with friends so that we can get the message out there. It's very important through a difficult time to get the truth out in a world that is not very true. And just remember, Jesus loves you, even if everybody else thinks you're a twat. Hi guys, and today I've got Ben Greer with me. Welcome, Ben.
Hey Charlie, thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honour.
It's an honour for me. You're ex-military, ex-Royal Air Force. Served a number of tours in Afghanistan, 6 I believe.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Incredible, you know. I don't have a hat, but I'll take my hat off to you. Much respect certainly from me and certainly from everybody watching here. You've done an amazing job,
Thank you very much, Charlie. You know, well, there's other people out there that are an awful lot more than me, and a lot of respect to them and everything. So thanks.
Respect to all our military guys, all the guys that are out there on the front line. We show our respect to everybody. They're far more willing to do it in America to show their respect to military than we are in the UK. And it's been a very difficult time for the guys in the military in the UK. Have gone out to fight wars that we should never have been involved in, but they've been out there doing their job. And when asked to stand up and be counted, they've all done it for us to have our freedom that's been taken away right now by wearing masks and lockdowns and everything else. But thank you anyway. It's really appreciated.
No worries. I think it's important, once we're sort of sitting on that point, is that that no matter who the enemy or perceived enemy would be, and no matter whether you agree with the particular war that we're engaged with, it is the heart within the service personnel that are fighting that war on all our behalves that we have to stand behind, rather than a war that we might not agree on. If there was, you know, some horrific challenge that everybody agreed was something that we should be fighting, then they would still be there to do exactly that same job, according to the prioritisation of the governing forces, you know. So. Sure.
But you know, from our previous conversation, I was saying about a good friend of mine, Ben Baldwin, who's a training major at Sandhurst. His heart is to protect the country, to protect, you know, protect the UK. That's always been there. What protecting it from what was never the question. You're there to do a job, and every single military man and woman does exactly that. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it was a real honour to serve, without a doubt, and I met some amazing people, some of which I'm still in contact with today.
Yeah,
left about 10 years ago now. It's quite some time, probably just a little bit more. Served 8 years, but you know, during those times of personal or war, effectively, you see the best of people, and you see the worst of people, you know, and so some of the people we work with. So I'll step back a little bit, Charlie, and give a little bit of background as to, I guess, why I joined the military.
Yeah.
Which might give some context for some of the for this discussion, really. And my objective with this, I was sitting late last night thinking about how I was going to put this across. my objective for this is to be as honest as I possibly can, and if in my honesty other people can find scope to be honest with themselves and also honest with others around them, then I've done my job, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so as you guys who think I'm just sitting here wearing a dirty t-shirt, I am, because I've had to rescue my dog. Okay, just before this meeting, he went missing, so that's where we're at. Yeah, so I was brought up in quite a Christian family. I went to boarding school at the age of 9, and I, like I said, down the vein of honesty, went to boarding school at the age of 9. Fantastic parents, absolutely wonderful people, fantastic brother and sister, and all work around me and stuff. And at the age of 9, went to boarding school, spent about 4 years at that particular boarding school, and left at the age of 13. I'll cut straight to the chase. With all the stuff that's going on at the moment, it seems particularly appropriate that I raise this as a point of honesty. I was groomed from the age of 9 to the age of 13 by a particular teacher at this boarding school. You don't realise it, you don't see it at the time, and ended up going off to. He ended up coming and staying with us for a particular period of time after I'd left that particular boarding school, for about 2 years. Through various means, he managed to orchestrate that, and I was abused for those 2 years. Now that set me off on a particular path, because, as I said, I was particularly religious when I was younger, and it set me off on a sort of almost like a divorce path from God. I just wrote him off. I went, well, how the hell is that even possible? That this should happen, and all I've tried to be is goodly and godly and look after people and this, that, and the other. How is that even possible? And I set myself off, because it had, obviously done a lot of damage to the family. It had done a lot of damage to basically everyone surrounding it. And more particularly, I stood up at the age of 15, having dealt with 2 years of this shenanigans, and being the guy from the in-between as the briefcase kid at school, and far more polite than he ever was. Getting into all sorts of trouble at school, to the extent that I ended up taking an after school one day and ended up actually stabbing myself, because there was anyway, it doesn't matter, there was gross bullying at school, and then I was going back to this shenanigans back at home. It was quite a traumatic period of a couple of years. So I stood up at the end of it, because I was like, well, I'm going to stand by the fact that our justice system will work. And I told my best mate at the time, and he said, well, that's why? That's just rotten. By this stage, I was at another boarding school, at the age of 15 and a half, whatever. And anyway, so took him to court. I wasn't allowed in court because I was a minor. I wanted him to stop it, because I realised how dark he is, how nefarious and deceptive his thoughts were to create the particular situation that I ended up being, not what people would classify as a victim. I do not classify myself as a victim, which is why I'm very happy to speak out about it. I think it's important that other people sort of look at it from a different perspective. So anyway, he went to court and he got off with 2 years probation. This is after abuse that occurred multiple times per day on some occasions, and I was angry beyond belief, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I went to counselling, and the first lady I saw, she said, well, after a few sessions, because she could see I was so angry, didn't know what to do with it. She said, well, go into the woods and get a stick and bash it off the ground until you've run out of energy. And I was like, that's not really very helpful, to be honest. It's not really getting rid of it. So, yeah, like I say, I just went to the gym, trained loads and loads and loads and loads. And that's how I handled it for the next few years. Now, because the court system didn't work, the justice was not done, and nobody wanted to speak about it, because it was a horrible little thing that nobody wants to face up to. And which is why I'm speaking out now, because I don't think it should be perceived as something you can't speak about. You know, I've never done this in this forum before, certainly not to 150,000 people. And anyway, sorry, I've lost my train of thought for a second.
No, the point you're making is going in front of a judge. And my thought process was the same, that when you're talking to a paedophile or people like that, predatory people, which the courts are full of.
I'm just in an interview at the moment, mate. Can you just...
I'll come back to the judge.
All right, cheers, Tom. Sorry, mate.
That's okay. If you're talking about abuse to an abuser, that's a very difficult position to be in. And of course, a lot of these judges in the courts are part of the problem. And a lot of the barristers are, a lot of the lawyers are, not all of them, but a lot of them are all linked in together. They all went to university together. I noticed something when you were talking this, it just flashed back. It was when I was in court with HMRC, the barristers were all friends. They went through university together. The barrister that was fighting against me, because my degree that was done online, it didn't count to him at all. Because I didn't go with all the paedophiles to university, and I didn't go through the whole system with them and do all the naughty things with them, because I did it a different way. Mine didn't count. And it was like a very, very condescending. But it's like a boys' club. And I can imagine if you're going in front of a judge, and we know so many of these judges have been involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in. And I'm learning from the interviews I'm doing. I've learned from people that have been to Epstein Island and seen not only judges there, barristers there, they've seen the president there. So who the hell do they go to? So when you have these issues as a young child growing up, who do you talk to? And most of the people I'm talking to today, like yourself, had to deal with it themselves. And one thing I'll say, Ben, to you is it turned you into a proper man.
Yeah, I actually look back, and I'll come back to this point later on, and it sounds really, really weird. In fact, I might I'll save it for later on, actually, because it'll make sense then. But in a way, I'm grateful because I'm far more awake and alert. Because you start, when shit like that happens, you question the system.
Yeah.
How on earth, literally, how on earth have we managed to get ourselves into such an upside down society?
Yeah.
Doesn't work. There's systemic failures everywhere because the systems do not work, you know, and they are built with a particular person in mind. Well, the systems do work, but they work for those that design the systems and put them in place for a particular agenda.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was not really angry about this whole thing, and I was like, well, you know, if the court system isn't going to take care of it, then somehow I'm going to have to do it myself. You know? And one of the reasons why I went off travelling when I was 18 years old, whatever, and became really calm in many ways. I went off to Kenya for 3.5 months and lived with a Maasai for 2.5 months, helping build an eco-tourism camp, travelling on my own. Nearly died several times through all sorts of things, malaria and typhoid and near line encounters and shit like that, and getting lost in the Pondu. Anyway, side by side, that's by the by. And then I went off to Nepal for 2.5 months to go and teach English in a school over there, all in the same 6 month stint, all on my own, to go and try and, you know, figure out what was going on in the world a little bit, really.
Mm-hmm.
I came back from that and I was mega chilled out, man. Somebody could have smacked me in the face in the street and I said, look, whoa, what's going on? You know, come for have a cup of tea and we'll sort this all out. You know? Hang on a second. Ed, can you just shut that door, mate, please? Thanks. Yeah, so that all happened. And basically, I came back to the UK and I was like, how do I do that sustainably? How do I go travelling and more particularly learning about myself and about the world and how it should work, etc. And I got pulled back into the system back in the UK, which does suck you back in, you know, unless you're very, very careful. And here I am, sort of, what is it, 20 odd years later, and I'm still within the system. You know? So I thought, well, you know, if the government, after a particular period of time, I started to get angry again, if the government isn't going to do anything about it, then I've got to do something. And so I thought, well, I've joined the military and I'll learn the necessary skills to go off and dispatch these evil fuckers myself, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's the only way I could justify it, because I didn't want to go off killing people. That wasn't my thing. I didn't really want to go and kill people for no reason. The only way I got around that in my head was, well, if I've signed up to it on my side and that person can shoot me, and that's okay with me, I put my hands up and you know, I signed up for it.
Mhm.
You know, it's the same on the other side. Simplistic way of looking at things. Until you go and experience these things, you don't know. So ended up joining the Air Force. I did want to go in as a regimental officer, but I was offered aircrew instead. And I went in and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Wonderful group of people. Went off and did some crazy stuff in Afghanistan. But you see, like one of our major roles over there was medical emergency response team, so the MERT, as well as various other things. But you had so much. We had an amazing, like the best medical teams in the world on the back of our aircraft. You know, and if you, there's some statistic, if you reach the back of the aircraft with a pulse out in the field, you had like a 97% chance of survival, no matter how many limbs were blown off, whatever. If you reached Bastion Hospital with a pulse, then you had a 98% chance of survival. Wow. I mean, these guys, they're something else. You know, our job was to get them to the scene as quickly as possible and get them back and provide whatever support we could do. So that was, you know, you get a shout and you need to be in the air as quick as possible with the relevant information, sometimes with an escort, sometimes without, you know, with a threat assessment, etc. It could be in the dark, at night, dust blowing everywhere, you know, and under fire, you know, you name it, it was happening. You know, it's a proper crazy scene. This happened day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out for months. And amongst the sort of standard tasking, which would be resupply of troops or deliberate inserts, extractions, operations, dropping off the paras to, you know, to take villages or Marines or whoever it might be. And but I think where probably concentrate most was the medical emergency response team, because you're having that impact on someone's life right then and there on the battlefield. And we've got to remember, we're not necessarily the overriding thing that you're fighting for when you're out there is your mucker on the ground that's digging in and doing the job, you know, or the guy next to you or the girl next to you or whoever. That's who you're fighting for, you know, and that's who we'll always be fighting for. And that's within the heart of any member of service personnel. And, you know, it's the same as you wanted to fight for your child. It's the same. You know, we're in this, we're brethren, we're doing this together, you know, and all that sort of stuff. I noticed when we came back from some of these mass casualty events or particularly traumatic events where you're picking up, you know, you can pick up women, children, our guys, their guys, you know, they're all states of disrepair, you know, from limbs blown off, dead, whatever it might be. And there's one particular medic who shall remain nameless because he hasn't asked to be named. I remember watching her at the end of this particular mass casualty event. We got off the back of the aircraft. We'd had a series, I think, of a couple of 3 runs out to a number of different bases or locations to go and get these guys. And it looked to me, when she sat there in the back of the aircraft with the blood on the aircraft floor and bits and bobs of whatever was going on, the aircraft had been evacuated and the guys were in the hospital at Bastion and her job was over, it looked to me like she gave part of her soul to that cause. You know, I remember I looked at her, she never looked at me, you could just see she had given everything, absolutely everything, you know, to this. And I thought, well, this is the most impact that I can have at the moment. After the 6th tour, or the 5th or 6th tour, I was at a level of anger where I couldn't correlate what was going on between back home and people knobbing about, doing what they do and getting on with their daily lives, and oh, there's the news about Afghanistan again or whatever, you know, because they're so conditioned to it. And what we were experiencing on the front line, it really drove me up the wall, to the extent that I remember pulling up behind a car, and bearing in mind at the time, I'm not like I am at the moment, I was benching 150 kilos, deadlifting 250 kilos, squatting ridiculous amounts, and running marathon distance. So I was mega fit, mega strong, and I'd lost it a little bit. And so I went I remember pulling up behind a car in Heacham in Norfolk, and somebody threw a fish and chip wrappers out of the window, just literally like a bunch of lads, 4 lads. I watched 4 lads get into the car outside of Chippy, and they threw the fish and chips literally out the window into the street. And I was like, hang on a minute, I can't take that. We've just watched loads of fucking people die, or give up limbs, or do whatever, and you're going to trash our country just from the inside because you don't know. I got out of the car, I picked up the fish and chip wrappers, and I stuck my head in the rear window with the 4 lads in it, and I had a proper pop at them, right? And they shit themselves, because you know when you look at somebody's eyes and they're just a little bit mental, and you're like, well, I don't know what this is going to go. Well, that's the way they looked at me, and I had a few interactions with people like that, and I thought, if I either need to leave or I need to do something, or join the special forces, one of those two, because otherwise I'm going to get in a lot of trouble when I get back home. So I did a lot of training to get into the special forces. I did my pre-selection, got on fine with that. Then we came to the actual selection course, and I did my ankling about 3 days before the actual course, which that's another story. Went to 3 different doctors. It was a ligament issue. I basically stripped out the ligaments in my right foot, and it was a nightmare. So I threw my teddies out after that, really, because I thought, well, you know, if I can't go into the special forces and learn the skills that I wanted to learn to go and dispatch these nefarious, evil fuckers because the judicial system's not doing it, then what do I do? So I had this burn. You have like this burning thing inside of me that said, you know, I don't know where I'm going to place it now. You know, because I've been in that particular direction for so long, and I had it taken away from me, or I felt I'd had it taken away from me at the last minute. I was raging, and okay, I left the forces. I just pressed my 7 clicks to freedom on the computer, and I was just like, oh, I've had enough, like, you know. And I then got my skipper's tickets and went offshore, and this, that, and the other. Spent another couple of 3 years offshore. Whilst I was there, I was working with people on the wind farms. You know, lovely people, but had absolutely no awareness of what was going on in Afghanistan, what people were doing on a day-to-day basis for our guys, you know, for the country, etc. And so I thought, well, I need to make a statement, really. I've got all this anger raging away. I'm just sitting on a wind farm boat, being a skipper of a wind farm boat for 14, 18 hours a day, whatever it might be, making sure people get to work and get to do the job, etc., etc. And my head was falling off because I was like, nobody understands anything. Right. So what I decided to do, and I didn't really think about it that much, because if I thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. I decided to walk a mile for every member of British Armed Service personnel to have died in Afghanistan since 2001, which was the current conflict, which at the time was 440 British personnel. This was in 2013. So I decided to do it with 100 kilos on the back. So that's not 100 pounds, it's 100 kilos in testament to each.
That's what I weigh.
Yeah, there you go, Charlie.
There you go.
You've lost some weight then, mate.
I have. I've lost 17 kilos.
Oh, yeah. Bloody hell. Well done, mate. That's brilliant.
I just stopped the gin and tonic.
All right.
I did a bit of walking. Alcohol and lack of exercise is my problem. A healthy diet and exercise works, but if I hit the alcohol, it just goes straight on everywhere. And I don't do the exercise because you become lethargic. But sorry, you say you did 1 mile with 100 kilos on your back for every British serviceman that lost their life. Incredible. Yeah.
So basically, I was working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off at the time. I did it in 100 different locations. So I moved out my apartment into a caravan, and hitched up behind a car. And then I went to each of 100 different locations around the country, walking 4.4 miles on each location. I didn't know what was going to happen at each stage. It wasn't planned. I put some stuff out there, and I just got on with it, because if I thought about it, it's a mammoth task, and I would never have done it. You know, mind gets in the way. And the idea behind it was, well, threefold really. One was to raise money for those members of British Armed Service personnel, for their families that had lost loved ones. 2 was to make a noise so as people would gravitate to it and understand it. So really, I couldn't get my head around how people just didn't know what was going on. And then the third one was to absolutely burn out that anger, because I was sick of living with it, you know.
Yeah.
By having lived with it for, I don't know, well, that stage, 6 years, you know. And I destroyed myself, you know, absolutely destroyed myself. I've got a hole in my back, which is now healed, from where the sand and lead, which was in the pack, were rubbing.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, and I think in some ways what we're facing is a parallel scenario at the moment, is that you've got something massive to say and you're trying to wake people up a bit, you know, just to say, look, honestly, you know, the only people benefiting from the war out there are people like KBR, these infrastructure companies, Sodexo, all these sorts of people. Mm-hmm. There's nobody else out there that's really benefiting, to be quite honest, you know, for the amount of death and destruction. So.
And this is one of the biggest things that Donald Trump has done. Since he's been in office, he hasn't gone to war against anybody.
Yeah.
First president in 30 years to do that. And he's bringing people together. And like, I've been a resident in Dubai now for business issues for more than 10 years. And I'm looking at the first move that they made between Israel. So the first peace agreement was Israel with the United Arab Emirates, which was Abu Dhabi, the godfather of it. And I was like, why has he done that? But you'd get this as a military mind. And the second one was Bahrain. And you go, then the penny starts to drop. That if he gets all these little countries that are all Muslim countries to link up with Israel, then Palestine, which has always had an issue with Israel, suddenly, when everybody else around them has become friends with Israel, they don't have a choice. So he's gone about it in a completely different manner than all the previous administrations. He's gone around getting all the other people around and working at it slowly, building it properly. And for me, once I saw that, it was a military operation, the way he's done it. It's beautiful to watch. And what we're going through right now, Ben, is a lot of people don't know what's going on. Because there's certain smoke screens over here when he's doing something over here. And the virus, the vaccine, 5G, the riots, and the alien invasions. I was told last year that these were all going to be part of the smoke screen for the global financial reset. So I knew about this from the start, before the start. So now I'm watching it play out, but I'm watching it play out and sharing the information based on what I was told. So there is no conspiracy theory. I was told something was going to happen, and it's happening. So that happens to be a word that's got 5 letters called truth.
Yes. 100%, Charlie. 100%, man. You know, and it's exciting to see it start to come out, you know, and it has its own frequency, truth, you know. And that's why, you know, I've gravitated towards yourself. I reached out to Jack, spoke to Sasha Stone.
Yeah.
Because all these people massively build the picture of that truth.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic to see it. And as I say, I'm honoured to be a part of it. You know, if my truth can help anybody, then I'm delighted.
Well, I'm honoured to have you on here. And I tell you what, there's an awful lot of people gaining an awful lot of confidence from what you just said there. Because from the outside, people just see Ben Greer as an ex-RAF personnel. I don't know what rank you were, but an ex-RAF Chinook operator or whatever, or part of the team. People get a perception of Ben. They don't realise that he went through an awful lot of suffering as a child to build the character that he is. Went through a lot of dark places with, you know, none, especially us men, we don't like talking about the dark places we've visited in our lives because we have egos. And when you start talking about the dark places, Ben's talked about his this morning. I've mentioned mine on when I lost my son and when I came out of the religion, when I was bullied at school. All these things will help other people say, look, I'm not the only one out there that's suffering. And then when you can share that with somebody who's actually suffered before, a lot of people overlook the fact that their grandparents actually suffered a lot more than we'll ever suffer and could actually probably be more helpful than anybody else around us right now.
100%, you know. And I think it's important to start that sharing scenario. I went off after I did that walk. I binned off the wind farms after about another year because I just realised I was burning up my life. I couldn't understand that the fact they were trying to get to zero carbon and all this sort of stuff, and yet we were hiring boats that were large enough to cost £250,000 a day, and there were multiples of them trying to put these turbines up. And then I was just like, hang on a minute, how much fuel are we burning? How is this even working? Why am I doing this? So I'd like to put my life into something that's worthwhile rather than I don't get how this all works, you know. Plus I was working myself to the bone. So I left that, and I thought I'd start a psychological training course because I was having some challenges with my first wife, bless her, you know, and myself within that relationship, stemming back to childhood, etc. And I went and did a psychological training course, which I won't mention the name of here because, again, they've not asked me to or anything. This is off the cuff. But I learned an awful lot about myself through that psychological training course. I took myself out for 3 months. And bearing in mind, like throughout my entire life, I've been very, very interested in understanding the psychological processes behind how everything works, you know. And it's been a real fascination of mine, especially when you divorce yourself from the spiritual side of things. Then you think that everything must be in your head and in your body. So I was working out like a bastard in the gym, and running and whatever, and also trying to understand what was going on in here so as I could resolve my own challenges. So I set up in I did the course, set up in a gym underneath in a cupboard underneath the stairs, right? And I had no money, you know, and it literally hand to mouth sort of scenario, so running a course that nobody had ever heard of, that was actually doing some incredible stuff. The only reason I did the course myself was because I knew that it had such a massive impact on me. And the whole idea behind it being a sort of PT for your head, personal training for your head. So that's why I was associated with the gym. It was literally a cupboard under the stairs. And I was there for about 18 months. I was successful enough. I had 3 other people move up to help me with what was going on. Unfortunately, for various reasons, the person I was with and the person that ran the business didn't really get on, and I wasn't used to running a business as such, so it kind of collapsed. And I ended up coming up to Skye. Well, I went away to Thailand for six weeks beforehand and just took my head for a shit, quite frankly. I tried to. I came back to Skye to help my folks out. So, because my old dear had cancer and stuff at the time, and changed the model on the business up here and start running all that. But I did learn like quite a lot from that particular course, and I've got a whiteboard across the room, Charlie, which I've cleaned in preparation for this morning.
Okay.
I thought might help us to understand potentially the anatomy of a belief.
Yeah.
Okay? And if we can understand the anatomy of a belief,
yeah,
you can also have more. If you can't get through to someone, you can have compassion for why they're maintaining that belief system, especially during this transition of belief systems, etc. So I'm just going to turn this around, mate, if that's all right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Right. Let's just see now. Hopefully, I've got some nice chunky pens that I bought the other day, mate, just for this.
Perfect.
So you've got sort of belief systems that that are, you know, there's gravity. Okay, so if I just do this, there's gravity. What proof what other proof do you want? So that's like a basic standard belief system. You know, you don't really need to question it. It just goes on in the background. Other belief systems obviously built on experiences, you know, and these are the ones that people will hold on to because they believe them to be true and won't necessarily question them.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we say, like for instance, with Father Christmas, okay?
Yeah.
So Father Christmas, do you believe in Father Christmas, Charlie?
With 4 children and 4 grandchildren, yes.
Oh, you do? Oh, right, yes. Okay, obviously. Okay.
For their sake, yes.
Right, okay, so let's pick something else then.
But for the art of this, then no.
Okay.
We use it just to keep them happy, because
Yeah. So if you think you're 5 or whatever, 6, 7, 8 at school, you know, and everybody believes in Father Christmas, you know, or you certainly believe in Father Christmas, and you believe in it because you leave carrots out on a night time for Rudolph on Christmas Eve or whatever, blah 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 blah. And so you build up this little belief system that Father Christmas exists.
Yeah.
And then suddenly one day you walk into school and your mate goes to you. There's no
bollocks.
Yeah, it's not, but it's a small, insignificant belief system.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't really have a massive impact on your life. And you're like, oh, that's really nice. My parents kept that going for me. You know, that's lovely. But you can blow it out of the water quite easily. You know, same as a tooth fairy or whatever. You know,
right.
But when you get to other belief systems, like people wanting to hold on to their particular beliefs as to what's going on at the moment, which is what I think I'd like to run through just now, broadly. They've built up massive belief systems to do with the stability of where they are in their world. You know, those of us, and this is why I'm grateful for my experiences when I was younger, and grateful for going away to Afghanistan, and grateful for all these things, because my belief systems were shaken so much I had to question them, you know, continually. You know, and then once you start questioning them continually, you start to bring yourself around to a perspective that isn't outsourced like through the mainstream media. You don't want to outsource your thinking through the mainstream media. You want to, you know, get it back in your...
The important thing with this is I do the Father Christmas thing for the children and the grandchildren. When you're in a military mind, that has to go out the window. You have to base everything on factual stuff rather than the lovely thing that kids love, Father Christmas. They love the tooth fairy, £1 under the pillow, €1 under the pillow. They love that. But yeah, we all know there's no tooth fairy, there's no Father Christmas. But we do it for our children. It's just a little, in the fantasy world, if you like.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, man. You know, it's lovely. It's a little treat. It's a lovely way to dress it up, you know. Yeah. But if you come to other belief systems, so if you try and, let's say a lawyer, right? So a belief system is basically like a brick wall, okay? Yeah. So each one of these bricks right? Yeah. You can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Yeah. Each one of these bricks is an experience within their life.
Yeah.
Wants them to derive the particular belief system they have about life, right? Now, what's interesting about these things is the glue that holds them together.
Yeah.
So the cement. So what is the cement within that wall? Because without the cement, that wall's going to come down quite easily.
Correct.
Okay. So if you look at it from a point of view of what's the cement is a need. Yeah. It is a need to hold that belief system.
Right.
So I've got a friend at the moment who shall remain nameless, who's awake and alive to what's going on, but his partner isn't. His partner's an accountant. Okay. So he based his belief system on, 7, 8, 9, however many years of training, and then however many years of actually doing the job, and where he gets his information from, which is the government all the time, and all this other sort of stuff. So his belief system brick walls are like, government information, training. He's invested in it.
Yeah.
He sees it every day, and people, clients believe him, and he does a good job.
Yeah.
Right, and various other ones. There's like thousands of them. But his need to believe that, this is what I said to my mate. I said his need to believe that is he doesn't want to believe that he's that the world is going to shake and he doesn't know about it.
Sure.
He's got his professional credibility on the line. He's got everything on the line. So he doesn't want to believe it, So if we can understand that need within different people's belief systems, which is holding them into it. Some of the most, I listened to something yesterday and they were saying something about, you can't, some of the hardest people to get through are your academics, some of your professors, etc., because they've built up this incredible belief system that they've invested so much money, time, effort into, and they're not going to want to get rid of it just like that.
No.
So they're going to have to see it. So that's just like a little scintilla of information that may well help people to be a little bit more compassionate when they're trying to get through to people.
Yeah, no, it makes an awful lot of sense, and it keeps it nice and simple.
Yeah, exactly.
So that people can understand what's going on. Because one of the biggest shocks to me, Ben, was the people I looked in my life at, I thought were mega intelligent. Didn't get this at all, and the people that I looked at that seemed to be a bit away with the fairies got it straight away.
Yeah, 100%.
And
Can I draw something else?
Me why?
Yeah, exactly. Can I draw something else?
Yeah.
Okay. I ordered some chunky pens, Charlie, and they said they were dry white, but they're not. But fortunately, I've got some alcohol gel, which I'm not using for anything else. Okay, that's not really working. Maybe I'll try another part of the board. So let's go over here. Right, okay, so if you think about it, we our perspective.
Yeah.
Through spective. So spectacles, whatever, you know? So this is us. Okay, and this is our eye, and this is the world over here.
Yeah.
We think unless we have an awareness, we think we see that. That's what we see. That's what everybody sees. That's the world.
Yeah.
But we don't see the world like that. We see the world through our beliefs, our thinking styles, our emotions at the time, stuff that people have told us, etc., etc., etc. So we've got myriad lenses that we look at the world through. You know?
Yeah.
If one of these lenses, and it's more than one, if one of these lenses is controlled by the mainstream media, it's such a big lens, then they're going to basically have deviated you from looking at the world straight on like that. They're like, no, look over here, because we're doing all this stuff around here and we don't want you to see it. You know what I mean? So I just throw those two little things out there, you know.
The one thing that just sprung to mind then, she sometimes drives you crazy, but Katie Hopkins I quite like, and she says it as it is, and takes a lot of those lenses out of the way, and especially to deal with fat people. And they're blaming everything except themselves. They need to eat healthier and they need to do more exercise. You only have to look back at photographs in the 50s and 60s. There's not a fat person in any of those pictures, because nowadays we've got convenience food coming out, and of course the adverts that are coming out and everything else that's coming out. These are the lenses. And the trouble is the people that look through the same lenses say, well, it's not your fault, because I see the same as you. But when you take those lenses away, you're fat because you're not doing any exercise and you're not eating the right food.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not nice, though, is it, Charlie? Nobody wants to hear that.
No, exactly. They're blaming it on genetics. No, you should start blaming it on the lenses that you're looking the world through.
Yeah, exactly. So once you see those lenses, and you can start to individually remove those lenses or help people see around those lenses, something magical happens. Yeah. People start to become empowered because they're not having their power taken away from them.
Yeah.
By the mainstream media, by somebody else saying, "Oh, it's not your fault. Take this pill."
Yeah.
By whoever, they get to own themselves again, and that's incredibly empowering. So as your self-esteem goes up, which is the empowerment factor, your social anxiety goes down. And your sense of well-being increases. Which is huge, and that's
And you start to look at the amount of when you have the debates about man and woman. Nowadays, there's so many lenses in the middle. I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm a this, that, and the other, and I'm another gender, and I'm something. No, you're either a man or a woman, or, that's how you were born. If on your journey you want to go down another route, whether it be gay or what have you, that's your choice, but you were born one or t'other. You might have been born a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body. That might have happened mentally. But the way you're looking at the world right now, you're looking through far too many lenses, which are distorting the truth.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. And I think that's why it's so important. I mean, that's why, like when you put something online, I had a few family members, I tried to put a few things online on Facebook and stuff. And after my a particular other event that Facebook backfired completely, I started getting quite a bit of negativity back. But it was from people that were invested in their belief systems.
Sure.
And invested in those lenses.
Sure.
And it actually gave me a real sort of understanding or understanding of where we are fortunate enough to have been in a situation where we needed to question an awful lot of stuff, the nature of the universe, good, bad, everything.
Yeah.
And people just, a lot of the time, haven't had to have that question.
Sure.
They haven't had to have it. And it's coming for them. And the good thing is that we can be there to help support them through that particular journey, you know?
Yeah. No, it's so important. You know, again, you just gave me a little flash there. When you're at school and you look through a prism and it's upside down.
Yeah.
And very often we're not getting clear vision of what we're seeing. We're seeing it upside down. We're seeing it back to front. We're seeing it inside out because we're looking through the wrong lenses. We're not opening our mind up to the truth. This whole journey for me has been amazing because I've started looking, instead of looking through the prism of mainstream media, I've started to look at other things. Like one thing I haven't discussed with you, but before I came out of the religious cult that I was born and brought up in Suffolk, in Ipswich, we didn't have television, we didn't have anything, but I went to hospital with appendicitis. This was during the Falklands War. So for the first time in my life, I'd seen a television. And depending on whether I was in bed or in the day room, depending on whether it was on BBC or ITV, that was the choice in those days, back in the 70s. That was the only choice you had. But I had the newspapers. I had the Telegraph, and there was the Daily Mail, the Express, the Today newspapers, then, etc. There was a number of papers around. But I was amazed at the different views of every single paper, and then the different views on the two different television stations that were there. And that not one of them actually matched up to the same as somebody else. They were all completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And that was my education. And now it's almost a joke when you stand and listen to Donald Trump do his press conference, and then you see what the news actually says that he said, and you heard him say it. There's nothing like what he said.
Yeah, 100%.
This is why he's doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why your role is so important here, you know, because you are speaking from that experience. Yeah. And people will, once they start to have that little scintilla of light cracking through, they will start to gravitate and try and find truth. And like I said before, truth has got that frequency, which is why I was drawn to you. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy once, it was quite funny, really. He was an engineer. So he looks at his life through an engineering brain. Yeah. And I was saying to him, you know, some people look at it as, is your glass half full or is it half empty? He just looked at me and said, Charlie, if it's half anything, you've got the wrong glass. That's an engineer's way of thinking.
Well, yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my terrestrial, mental, and physical journey. Yeah. But I did set up a business when I got up here to Skye.
Yeah.
And ended up it's a lot of work. It's 24/7. I'm not going to go into what it is. It's 24/7, full on, and been doing it for quite a period of time now, with non-stop, with various pressures, etc. And I think I probably got pretty close to a bit of a breakdown last year, to be honest. At which point, I found a particular course in not a course, but a retreat in Central America. And whether you want to keep this in video or not, whatever, man. But I want to share. And I went over there to go and do breath work and ayahuasca, which is plant medicine, you know. And during that particular week, the truths I learned about myself, I've been completely divorced from the spiritual side of things, 100%, you know. But I had such an experience that week that I then realised that, you know, we are not just mind and body. Mm-hmm. We are mind and body that is infused with spirit, which is consciousness, which is, you know. So that changed a huge lens. Yeah. Or a number of huge lenses that I had, because then you've got to basically bring that back into reality over the period of time that you're sort of reintegrating and realizing that you are spirit manifest, you know, and as an empowering thing, it's just been crazy, you know, to see the differences that have been made in my life by me, by what's going on, and by my realizations as well, you know. And I think it was a proper life change, you know. It's almost like being rebirthed into your body, you know. Yeah, I say that in the interest of being honest, and something that's definitely changed the trajectory of my own particular journey, and probably brought me onto this path a lot quicker, to be fair.
Well, we talked before we came on air about different things, and you mentioned about going to Thailand, and I used to go to Thailand every year to Phuket, to the Atsumi healing clinic, if you like. It's a detox place.
Yeah.
I'd go for a week, 10 days, because if you can imagine, Ben, I was out 7 nights a week in Port Banús, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, everything, flat out. And it was like taking my body for a service every year to recover it. But it was a fascinating time to be out there, just to get back in touch with yourself and understand yourself, and take those lenses away that you're looking at, and try and look at life from a different perspective. And there's a very simple way of doing it, and that's to describe, like I've used it before, the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
You can look at it from one side and it looks very beautiful. Look at it in the sun, and look at it from the other side in the shade. It looks very different. I've also used the Mediterranean. From my house, it looks beautiful. From a diver's perspective, it looks completely different. And it's quite good to look at it from different perspectives to try and evaluate what the truth is.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a judgment. And this actually happens a lot in our lives right now, where let's just say a couple split up in their relationship. And you and I know that we've met many couples who split up. When you hear his story and her story, there's absolutely no similarity whatsoever. And these two people lived together for years, and they've split up, and there's the different views on the same split up is completely polar opposite.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, yeah. The more work we can do to see the lenses, I mean, getting somebody to realise that there is one lens, you know, will automatically open up their mind to the fact that there must be others, you know. And it's going to be easier as things move forward through this awakening process, and things are presented in front of people that do help to shift that paradigm for people, to then be in a position to gently drip feed information of a positive nature to them, to get them to understand it. I absolutely love Thailand. I think it's bonkers, and what I love about it, coming back to that word again, it is a paradigm shift from what we are used to applying as logic in this country. Somehow they apply something that is completely topsy-turvy, and it's called logic, and it works, and I don't know how, you know. So I absolutely love Thailand, you know, and from that particular perspective, at the very least. You know.
Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, they're all much of the same, and so is the Philippines. They're all much the same, but there's something incredibly special out there.
Yeah.
With the people that their spiritual levels are incredible.
Yeah.
We could learn so much from them, you know. And I love the people out there. I often, if I'm in Vietnam, I often love looking around there and considering the mighty force of the American military, and realizing the spirit of these small people was strong enough to defend them for 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge.
It's amazing.
It's huge, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the something that's been resonating in my head for a period of time now is the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he never existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And if you take that, and if you just take that as a, never mind what your beliefs are, whatever, you know, just take that as a, okay, so let's just play with the idea that there was a devil, or there is a devil, and he convinced the world that he didn't exist. And what would happen then? Well, by proxy, people would then believe that God didn't exist because there was no other extreme.
Yeah.
And as such, then that can be the middle bit can be controlled quite easily.
Yeah.
And then you start to, over a transgenerational process.
Yeah.
You look at the patience. You know, you look at the planning of the dark side and see what it's done. It's huge. It's immense. And I hate to say, you know, I'm blown away by it. But once you start to see it, so you've had a transgenerational timeline to get this into place. You've basically turned everything upside down. You put lenses in front of everybody from people that they trust, like the BBC, the mainstream media, like the Food and Drugs Administration, like the CDC, like the World Health Organization. All these lenses have been put into place to create trust. Why, you know, and we're here for your protection. And in fact, it's just everything's been turned the wrong way around. So what I'm really looking forward to now is that getting flipped.
Yeah.
See how, because, you know, we all know it's been bad and then some. And whilst I wouldn't advocate everybody learning about how bad it is or has been at all, the pendulum is swinging.
Yeah.
And if it has been that bad, then surely it can be at least that good. You know?
It'll be that good and better.
What's that?
It'll be that good and better.
Exactly, Charlie. Exactly. So it's a very exciting time to be alive on this planet, and I'm very grateful for it.
Well, I'm very grateful to have you on here this morning to share that, because this morning was an incredibly special message, and it's a message that we need to get out to everybody out there, because your diagrams have hopefully opened up people's minds as to why we're not seeing things so clearly as we thought we were. And just one little example to finish on is the word wicked. When I grew up, it meant bad.
Yeah. Flip it on its head. And I will just say one thing, Charlie. I've been doing quite a lot. I live in a little 2-bedroom house at the moment with my half. And I watch TV after I go to bed. So I go to bed and I'll lie there and I'll think for quite a long time before I go to sleep quite a lot. And I listen to the noises, the frequencies that come out of the television.
Yeah.
They are fucking hideous.
Yeah.
You know, and you're listening to that drivel and pollutant.
My wife is just going. I'm just saying about my wife is off for the day. This is Ben, who's a former military man.
Hi, Ben.
How you doing, love? You all right? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, she's off for the day now. She's doing her gymnastics. She's a gymnastics coach.
Oh,
she was
wow.
an international gymnast for 10 years, and then in the circus for 10 years. Now she's a coach. So
fantastic. I'd love to finally see you.
Somebody's got to work in the house.
Well, that's it.
Pay the bills.
Exactly.
Good to see you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, totally. I look forward to meeting you guys in the flesh, you know?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
And she will be.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Slide back.
Yeah, perfect.
And it was, I think it was at that moment when I was lying in the bed and I was listening to this stuff, you know, not just one night, you're thinking you could watch one TV program and it sound pretty rough, but actually every night that I've been in bed earlier than Kat, the noise has been horrific. And you're thinking that's in you. Yeah. It just goes in you, man, you know? And until you see it, you can't dissociate from it.
No. And a lot of that subliminal stuff that comes out, you know, the classic, I don't watch the telly at all, but I watch the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Because I love the racing, but it's so corrupted with like the masks, and you look at them and you go, you've got some of the best mechanical brains you could ever have in the world on Formula One racing. You know nothing about what you're doing. You're wearing a mask, which is a Ferrari mask. It's got nothing to do with medical. Nothing at all. Or a McLaren mask, or a Mercedes mask, or whatever. You just go, really? And you've got, we've mentioned this, intelligent people, but seeing it, the trouble is the lenses are put there by the people who pay their wages.
Yeah, so they've got you in several ways.
Of course they have.
You're in a web. It's nothing less, you know. Yeah. And you might see one of those things and you feel duty bound to hold yourself in this position because of 3 or 4 or 5 other things. Yeah. You know, which could be familial or, you know, anything that has an emotional tie on you. That's how deep it's gone.
It is.
But let's unwind it, mate. It's unwinding.
We are, aren't we? It's amazing. But thank you so much for joining me. And
No worries.
it's been absolutely brilliant what we've covered today, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Ben Greer.
Cheers, Charlie. Thanks a lot, mate.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.